All right, hello. We are ready for our next section of notes. This is called quadratic formula, and you use the quadratic formula to solve an equation like this one. 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals 0. Notice it's a quadratic because it has the x squared term in it. Well, first we need to remember the quadratic formula. And you don't need to memorize this for the test. Remember, you will have a reference sheet, and the quadratic formula will be on there. The quadratic formula says this. If you have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, we're going to use the a, b, and the c. If you look up in the red equation, you see a is the 2, the first number, b is the 3, the middle number, and c would not be 5, it's the minus 5. Got to watch that negative there. Well, to solve this for x, and that's our goal, we want to solve for x, we take negative b plus or minus. Now that gives me my two answers because quadratics always have two answers, so one's going to be addition and one's going to be subtraction right there. Plus or my square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over, it's one big fraction, 2a. So, if I look above, let me write this down. A would be the 2, B would be the 3, and C would be the negative 5. So let's plug those numbers in. X is going to equal negative B, which is the 3, plus or minus big square root of 3 squared minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is negative 5. I'm going to make that square root a little longer. All over 2 times A, so it's 2 times 2. Wow. Long equation, but we got to know how to do it. Now let's start cleaning things up a little bit. X would equal, let's keep it negative 3, plus or minus the square root of 3 squared would be 9. And it's going to be, see, there's a minus and there's a minus. And so two negatives make a positive. Then 4 times 2 is 8, times 5 is 40. 40. All over 2 times 2 is 4 on the bottom. Now let's keep going. I'm going to come up here over on the right-hand side. I'll continue. X would equal, I'll keep the negative 3, plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 40, that's 49. All that's over 4. Then the next thing, I would take the square root of 49, which is 7 over 4. I'm almost done. Now here's where I add and subtract. Always take that part and save it for last. One answer is going to be negative 3 plus 7 divided by 4. And the other answer would be negative 3 minus 7 over 4. So I get two answers. Let's see. What's negative 3 plus 7? That's positive 4 over 4 is 1. 1 is one of my answers. The other answer would be negative 3 minus 7. That's negative 10 over 4. And we got to reduce that fraction. Don't forget that. Negative 5 over 2 would be that other answer. Negative 5 over 2. It's okay to get fractions, and it's best to leave them just improper fractions. So there are my two answers for that equation. Let's take a look at another one. Negative 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 is 0. So let's write some things down. First of all, quadratic. Let's go ahead and write the quadratic formula. X is negative b plus or minus big square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. And let's write down A would equal the negative 3, B would equal 5, and C would equal 2. Let's plug some stuff in. X would equal negative B, so I want negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times A, which is negative 3, times C, which is 2, all over 2 times A, or 2 times negative 3. That's just plugging in A, B, and C into the problem. Let's now start cleaning things up. So X would equal negative 5 plus or minus the square root. And that would go, what, 5 squared is 25. My sign, because there's 2 negatives, would be a plus. 4 times 3, that's 12. Times 2 is 24. All over 2 times negative 3, that's negative 6. Let's add 25 and 24. That's 49. I think we got 49 on the previous problem, which is good because I know in a minute I'm going to change that to a 7. So that means I'm going to come over to the right. That X would equal negative 5 plus or minus 7 all over negative 6. So my two answers, one would be negative 5 plus 7 divided by negative 6. There's one answer. The second answer would be negative 5 minus negative 7 over negative 6. So let's go finish these. The top one, negative 5 plus 7, that's 2 over negative 6, and reduce that. Negative 1/3. So negative 1/3 is one of my answers. The one below would be negative 5 minus 7. That's negative 12 over negative 6, and 2 negatives make a positive. So the answer is 2. So my two answers for this quadratic are negative 1/3 and positive 2. One more. And we got to change things up. Notice that the first two equations were in that A, B, C equals 0 format. This one is not. It has to equal 0 and be in order. Well, to change that, I'm going to take the x squared, move it over here, and this minus 3 and move it over. To give myself negative x squared, change the sign because you moved it, plus 2x, then move the minus 3 to become plus 3, and then my equals 0. So now my A is negative 1, B is 2, and C is 3. Well, let's start plugging things in. I'll go to black. X is negative B plus minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. So I just plug everything in first. Now let's go back and start cleaning things up. So X would equal negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared is 4. Again, I see 2 negative signs, so I'm on a plus sign. 4 times 1 times 3, that'd be 12, all over negative 2. Next thing, let's add the 4 and the 12 to get 16. So X is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 16 over negative 2. And square root of 16 is 4, so I'm going to come over here to the right and put negative 2 plus minus 4 over negative 2. So I'm ready now for my two answers. One answer would be negative 2 plus 4 over negative 2. The second answer would be negative 2 minus 4 over negative 2. So what are my two answers? The top one, negative 2 plus 4, that's 2 over negative 2, so that's negative 1. The bottom one would be negative 2 minus 4, so that's negative 6 over negative 2, and that would be a positive 3. So my two answers are negative 1 and positive 3. Hey, that's the quadratic formula. Lots of work, but you got to know that. Remember also now, you don't have to memorize. Thankfully, you don't have to memorize the quadratic formula. It'll be on your reference sheet when you take this test. Hey, thank you for watching.